Well, build my gallows and build them high. Makes a long time climbing before I die. I want the chance.
Hello everybody, welcome to Longbangers. I'm Matty.
Good morning, I'm Colin.
Good morning, I'm John.
Nice one. It is good morning because we are up at the crack of dawn on a Sunday morning to record this due to life commitments and stuff like that. I was up early with the dog this morning nights. Taken to over the last week and a bit. I think what's happened, his sleep pattern's just gone nuts. He wakes up at least twice through the night, and then this morning he was up at the crack of dawn barking as well. I don't know if like something's unsettled him or what, but
Clock's changing.
Eh?
Clock's changing, no? Anything to do with that?
Nah, I don't think so, because he would sleep right through, but now it's like 3 a.m, and then he'll go to the toilet, go back to his bed, and then wait so you get back to your bed, and then just starts barking again. Like, fucking nightmare.
That's your job, eh?
Aye. It's like the nighttime bark is, I think he's pitched it at such a level that it's only me that is able to hear it.
So it works.
Evidently, me and the missus.
Everybody in the house that wanted the dog.
Aye, they can't hear it. No, everybody that wanted the dog can't hear it.
Just go on strike. Just refuse. Just lie there until everyone's up and someone
I've tried.
Takes control. Oh, really?
I've tried, but there's a limit. It's like, do you know when you hear about the prisoners of wars getting tortured and that? That's what it's like, kind of like the water dripping or. After a while, you're like, I can't take it anymore. I need to do something.
It's torture they do. If you watch that, I never watched it this year because Matt Hancock was on it. But the SAS program, at the end when they do the torture bit, it's babies crying. They're having the headphones. Aye. So that's like what you're going through.
Aye.
They'll have you in the stress position next. They'll be back in and you're like, Hibs behind your back or something.
Anyway, enough dog chat. We got another win, back-to-back wins, which I think is the first time somebody said, I think since March or something like that we've put back-to-back wins.
Which March? This year,
March this year. Johnson did it, but it's the first time Montgomery's done it. Calling a bit of chat in our WhatsApp group about how the narrative's now changed for like one defeat in 11 games, as opposed to only one win or like however many games without a win. So that definitely does change the tone of things when we get back-to-back wins. Hard-fought win, going down to 10 men and having to kind of hold on at the end, but I thought like quite a good performance overall. John, I'll come to you first. What were your overall thoughts on the game?
But overall, we were pretty comfortable, and even though we went down to 10 men, and it was around about the 65th minute, I know that would have set hearts aflutter amongst the Hibs support, thinking that, oh Christ, like here we go again, that's them Dundee going to get back into it. But even then, like I thought that we were still enough of an attacking threat, and I don't think that Dundee were enough of an attacking threat and hadn't demonstrated that throughout the game to suggest that they were going to come back and get it back to 2-2 or even go on to win it. There was a lot of impressive play from Hibs throughout. I'm sure we'll come on to it in particular, but one of the parts that I enjoyed was the missed body when Hibs played a pass. So if they had a guy through the middle and they had a boy running down the channel, had a boy out in the wing, the ball was going out to the wing rather than kind of like pedestrian, like kind of football by numbers. Right, I'm going to pass it to him. I'm going to pass it to him. It was a very clear and direct approach to how Hibs wanted to play the games. Actually, that's what resulted in one of the goals.
Colin, before I come to you, I should have said welcome to Longbangers, sponsored by Leith Spirits.
Oh, aye.
You tell us still new to us, eh? We're still getting used to it. So, thank you. Sorry, Leith Spirits, I forgot for that split second. I remembered now, though. Colin, what was your thoughts on the game?
So, it looks like I had a couple of folks say to me in messages, hanging on to that, and it was nervy and all that, and I thought, I sat and watched it, but I thought it was quite comfortable. Like, I didn't think it was, I know that we put pressure on ourselves by letting the late goal in and getting a late sending off and that, but I didn't really ever feel in danger. Like, I think John sort of said that or alluded to that as well. I felt it was quite comfy. But then I'm looking at the stats here while John was talking, and I didn't realise they had so many shots on target compared to what we did, but it felt like we were the more dominant side. but the stats would suggest we weren't. But I actually felt it was all right. I felt we were well worthy of the win.
I know you
We
mentioned
weren't in any danger.
shots on target there. Like, I think there was one in the box that it looked like it might have been a goal. I think it's come off someone's heel, and it's just kind of, I think that's taken the pace of it. It's allowed Marshall to collect it, but they definitely had a lot of shots that were over the bar, and that's why I think that's probably why I felt like it was more comfortable, because we just didn't look like we were being threatened, like we were restricting them to shots from distance that were inevitably going over the bar.
Aye, which would back up the 19 shots to 10, right? But the shots on target was 7, 2 or 3.
Really?
As well. Aye, but then I suppose Marshall did make 3 or 4 saves, didn't he?
I think we've also been on the opposite side of that with regards to like possession and shots on target, etc. Like, it's not the ones that you have on target, it's the ones that you convert.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been guilty of not converting them in the past. Yeah.
But I felt it was more, sorry, Matthew, I think it was more comfortable than maybe the result in the last 10 minutes suggest, I thought.
Well, the last 10 minutes definitely skewed it, because it was like, I felt at that point we were pretty backs to the wall, and I think given our propensity this season to chuck away leads, you were kind of. I felt I was waiting on the inevitable. Really, is like,
propensity, you see.
Is that your word in the Cambridge Dictionary?
What does it come up
as? Folk listen to this. Sorry, we know what that means, right? But
listen,
we came out of listener basis.
You shouldn't underestimate the listener base. So we have, like, I did a survey, and no offence to the other podcasts and that, but I did do a survey, and scientific with graphs, included graphs to make sure it was actual factual. There was a pie chart in there, and we did have the most intelligent listener base. There's a lot of crossover. That it was marginal, right? And I think the marginal ones is just because I think we are older. That's what it is. That's what it is. We're not a young team, aren't we? Right? So, that was science. It was the boy, what's his face, Brian Cox, that did it for me. I'd originally commissioned. Off of TV. I'd originally commissioned Stephen Hawkins, but obviously he couldn't finish the work, so he handed it on to Brian Cox, and then that's how you can. It's actual factual. It's real hard data with graphs and pie charts, and
it's interesting that you went for Brian Cox and Stephen Hawking. Is that because that's the only two scientist names that you know?
No, Einstein. So
it was Newton. Newton was one as well, wasn't he?
Aye. Milligan, Cleese, Everett sessions. Right, where were we?
You're talking about propensity.
So we have a habit of doing it, and I think somebody, I can't remember who was it, tweeted that they just put 2-2 incoming, and I was like, that's kind of how it feels it's going to go. But actually, I kind of agree with you, John. I think like we were comfortable. Dundee were sort of peppering the goal, but no really. Is it maybe only had like one or two proper? He should score that chances, and amongst all that pressure at the end of the game, we started the game really well though. Potentially could have had a penalty, John. It looked like a foul on Miller. What was your take on that incident?
It's funny. I know that one of our listeners in particular will be eager to hear my comments about the penalty. Big shout out to Dave F off Hibs.net. I thought it was a penalty. It's so bizarre. And I think this is the situation that we find ourselves in with regards to like the decision making and VAR and what have you. Like, to me, it looked clear. Like the boy, what you say was Bakayoko. He's got nothing on the ball, and he's just gone. Like, he's basically bundled Miller over. I don't understand how that's not a penalty.
You know how you say you want to say Bakayoko? Is that because you think that's what the guy's name is, or just because you like saying it? So that sounds like a sort of name that you would want to say. It's
because, well, there was a boy I think that used to play for AC Milan back in the day. Anyone that played ISS on the old PlayStation, I remember a boy. I think was it Ibrahim Bakayoko. Oh. I think he had dyed blonde hair. And because I want to say it was Bakayoko because I can't remember for definite. I'm sure it was. I want to leave that as kind of like when you say arguably, you kind of want to leave it open just in case you're wrong.
Yeah. This is where I admire you for trying it, because I never know the opposition players. So I think it's very, very rare that somebody will do something and I'll go, oh, I remember who that was. I remember the boy, their fullback, because he had, his name was Beck, and every time I saw him, I thought, loser.
Loser.
So I remembered his one, but and then who was it? Is it Rudden or something? The boy up front. I think somebody said he was only 20.
The oldest young guy, or the oldest looking young guy.
I was like, I mean, I can Dundee's rough, but fucking hell.
Well, I actually saw, it's interesting because he's young and he shaved his head, or presumably he looked like he'd shaved his head.
It looks like it, yeah.
Do you remember Martin Skirtle that played for Liverpool?
Uh-huh.
So he was known for having the shaved head or the bald head. But I saw a picture of him the other day with a full head of hair, and he's got like a big rack, like all the football shirts of the guys that he's played against behind him. So like, were you just shaving your head for a look?
Obviously, Scott Brown.
Aye, Scott Brown did it.
Scott Brown's another example.
Call a penalty.
I'm the same. I just did it for the Sunday for this.
Aye. Well, I remember you calling me. You were like Hercules. Anyway.
Aye, it was a penalty. Aye, that's what you're asking.
Penalty.
Yes,
aye.
I think it was. I'm not really sure how. Now, what I was watching, I didn't see the aftermath of it. I've seen the incident a few times. Did they even go to VAR? Did the referee do the hand at the ear thing or anything like that? No. I don't understand how that's not looked at.
It's crazy because they said that they had that independent review this week, and they said it was only 3 decisions since the start of the season that VAR got wrong. 2 of them against Dundee, which may explain why we never got that one. Maybe they've done a lot even itself out.
The Dundee commentator said that we're the most wrong team by VAR in the commentary. It was Dundee commentary I was listening to, and they mentioned that at one point, and I thought, and that's what I thought. I wonder if that's why we're not getting anything today.
The Dundee commentator says that they are the most wrong team with regards to VAR decisions, and that's because the 2 out of the 3 that VAR has got wrong has gone against Dundee. That's a really clever way of describing that by the Dundee commentator, because I'm thinking, this is a massive conspiracy against the Dens Park boys.
But again, I suppose that's the ones where VAR's looked at it.
And they're only admitting to 3 as well.
Because I noticed Hearts should have a penalty as well. Very similar sort of incident. The boys come down in the player's foot, and it looked at Stonewaller. And I don't know, for VAR now, I'm like, I don't know. Like I've supported VAR and the idea behind it quite a lot, but I'm kind of at the point now going, what the fuck's the point if they're not doing it when they're meant to do it?
Yeah.
And you're having like an incident like that on Saturday, not just us, right? And I'll fucking I know that I'm wanting to stick up for Hearts, and they get enough penalties. But that was a stick-on penalty for them. It's like bad enough that the referees missed it, but for VAR to not get involved, and it's the same as on Saturday. And like, if it had been in our box, the feeling is that gets looked at.
Look at the St Mirren one. Like, I know it wasn't the same because it was a jersey pull rather than something, but I'm even thinking now it could be slightly wrong. But Hearts got a penalty in the cup semi-final against Rangers. So they don't feel a wee bit similar.
Yeah.
And the boy got sent off, and then they looked at it, and then the dive and gave them the penalty. And I'm thinking, well, it's more. You know what it is? What I said. I think I said it on here. I think it was in one of the groups, but I said that we don't communicate it. Like, so we don't know. Maybe they don't look at it. We don't know. Nobody tells us.
Aye.
Like, we have no idea. They might have looked at it and went, nah, it's not a penalty. You're right, ref.
To go back to my original point about like not knowing when something is or isn't a penalty, like the rules are there. And I remember when we were talking about Bashiri and Cholak and like the sort of aftermath of that, because we're looking at it and we're thinking that's never a penalty. And you have a look at the rules, and the rules say that if you were to put your hands on an opponent, then that would result in a foul in the box, direct free kick, I think they call it, so that's a penalty. But then you see hands on players in boxes all the time where penalties aren't awarded, so it's kind of like it's almost like the rules mean fuck all, and it's entirely how the referee's feeling and how they're officiating on the day.
They'd be as well saying that, because that is what it is, and they'll just contradict themselves the week after. They'll say this week, nah, that's not a penalty because he was facing away for goal, right? They just make something like that up, or he was running towards the byline, so he wasn't going to get the ball anyway. But then the next week they'll give one, and then they'll say, well, it's clearly a foul. He's cut his leg. I don't know
what. I mean, I'm assuming, and actually, Matty, I just want to ask. I know we've jokingly referred to you previously as Hibs fans chief, can we now add on and VAR champion as well?
So, and I've definitely not championed VAR. Not in its current guys anyway. I think
No.
the version we've got is bollocks. It's either like it's incompetence, and this like we only got 3 decisions wrong, shite. So 3 of the ones that you've reviewed, you maybe got wrong, but you can't like.
John, your penalty the other week as well.
Aye.
Like that wasn't looked at.
Aye.
But so if it wasn't looked at, you never got it wrong. But you got it wrong.
I'm just not having it. It's getting applied consistently or fairly across the board. And if they've looked at that one on Saturday and decided it's not a penalty, I would love to know the rationale, because who did Joe Neal conceded a penalty earlier in the season at Easter Road. And he kind of did the same thing where he just caught the boy's standing foot. It was like a minimal contact, but the boy went down on it, and it was a penalty, and everybody went, "That's a penalty."
Is it St Mirren maybe in the first game of the season?
We argued. I think we all said it was soft, right?
Yeah.
But he was like, "There's contact. It's that one. He's made contact. The boy's gone down." It was hard to argue against it because there was. How is that a penalty and that one's no? I just didn't get it. And again, if you've reviewed one and gone, that's fine, that decision. Whether they've gone, because I think that one.
But that's the only way we know. That's the only way we know, though, because the referee puts the finger in his ear. That's how we get to find out.
Aye.
Like,
well,
wait, just tell us stuff. Educate us. See if that isn't a penalty. Tell us why it's not a penalty, so that next week we're not shouting for it. So that because we know, well, that's not a penalty anymore. Like because you're allowed to trip somebody up in the box.
Was a VAR review, because remember the boy going down his dinger that he never got the foul. Because we were shouting for the yellow, get a boot for diving. He's doing his dinger, and then it gets called back. So if VAR deems that acceptable to intervene there, why is it on Saturday?
You need to kick the ball to play as well for it to be reviewed. Otherwise, they just say, "Fuck it, we're not looking." It'll take too long, and we'll have to pull it back. I've said that before on here, but I think if you allow the ball to stay in play, it seems to be we'll leave it with the ref's decision. We'll not even look.
I wonder if that's something that like teams have clocked and have started deliberately doing that. Like when they think that there should be a VAR review, because I think watching Sports Scene last night, there seemed to be. That's the first time that I've watched it for ages. There seemed to be a bit of a recurring theme amongst the commentary of the various games that if they want, like if teams, if there was a VAR decision to be made, teams were clamouring for it during the games, like go and fucking have a look at that. But I wasn't sure. I wasn't aware that was a possibility that teams could do. I thought that was entirely independent. Like the folk that were sat in their wee room at Hart Hill or wherever it was, they make the decision. Know that the players have said to the referee, go and have a look at that. But I wonder if teams are deliberately kicking.
I must be able to say, go and have a look, because I've watched the English ones when you get the audio released. Obviously, we'll never do that up here, like, or maybe in 5 years' time, well behind the curve as usual. But they send they put the audio for the Arsenal Newcastle one, and there was another one. Is that Arsenal? No,
the Spurs offside,
one.
Spurs Liverpool.
Yeah. And you get to hear it, and you think that's like letting us understand the process they went through, especially at Arsenal Newcastle. How can it take so long? They're checking that, and everything was fine. So that's why the goal standing. And even as an Arsenal fan, you would think you would go, let's fucking check it. I think the ball maybe is out. How can they tell? Right, all that kind of stuff, because that was probably the only one that was a challenge in that game as the ball. But that's that fucking the shadow of the ball's covering the line. It's still in sort of thing. But at least it educates you and lets you understand the thing. Whereas we're going, did he even check it? Don't know. And they'll go, we fucking checked it. Well, why was it not a penalty then? I'm not fucking telling you. And that's how it. That's where we are.
Yeah. And it's the inconsistency in the decisions where you can take comparable ones and you think, well, it's getting involved there, but no there. It needs to either get binned or sorted out. Like they invest the money in making it work properly. If you're going to have it, do it properly. That's the version we've got. It's just fucking dire. It's just ruining it.
Yeah.
Anyway, right. So
we talk about it every week now because and I was for it. I'm for it if they could get it to work right, but they need to get it to work right. They can't go on the way it is. We're just spending fucking 15 minutes on it every week.
Aye. It is good for padding out an episode. To be fair, like maybe do keep it.
I know, but we tend to overrun anyway. Yeah.
I know this is true
because of that.
This is true. Anyway, right. So penalty incident, we didn't get it. We do then score. Jair. Colin, talk us through the goal.
So playing it for the back, didn't they just shell it Rocky, I think it was Marshall probably gave it to Rocky. Rocky definitely gave it to Tavares. He'd done his wee turn, but this time he didn't take the foul, and he decided to beat the boy. He's brilliant at that. He always goes that way, yeah. Like if you're a defender, you're thinking, don't let him turn right.
Aye.
But he does it, and he must do it that well. The defender never clocks it, and then he nice ball at the line to Venti, and then he filled the gap in the middle that Venti had left by going over to the left. And good ball across, Campbell dummied it, and Tavares just kind of kicked it straight towards the goalie, and the goalie decided not to save it. So it was a good, cracking goal though. Like, wasn't it? I think it was a brilliant finish. It's a good finish because it went in, but straight at the goalie. But it was a cracking goal.
My stream nights, I was watching it, and I had the worst stream to watch it, and it froze just as the ball arrived at Tavares. Like, so literally as it's on his foot.
Aye.
And I said to Jane, "It's like, this is a fucking brilliant. It's like a question of sport. What happened next? So Ken, where's this going to go? It's like he's got to score for there. When I'm looking at it, he's got to score. But going, what's actually going to happen here? And then when it caught up, he was a bit celebrating. So I kind of had to wait for the replay to see what had happened. But it was perfectly kind of that's the moment there. Does he score or does he not? But he did. John, what did you make of the goal?
Oh, it was excellent. It was that. So I mentioned it at the start of the programme that we never got into the specific detail, but Colin mentioned it there, that turn. I never realised that he always turns the one way. I wonder or I hope that he's maybe lulling players into a false sense of security so that as soon as they twig, he's going to turn the other way. But I'd mentioned to a couple of people recently, Liam off Down the Slope when we were out for the semi-final, that I thought one of Tavares' big attributes was that ability to take the ball in tight areas, turn, and then start setting up an attack. And Colin mentioned it as well, like the playing out for the back. It's funny because I think we're doing the podcast, like there's so many different things that you hear that you pour over in terms of like, well, the detail, like managers, for example. So we mentioned it previously about Johnson, his style of play was to get a couple of quick passes into the box, opportunity, never really executed it that well. Montgomery hasn't said that's what we wanted to do, but that's kind of what we're seeing, or at least that's what we saw with the goal yesterday. But I think another thing that we've maybe not really got to see too much of is Tavares' pace, because I think as soon as he turns yesterday and he beats the challenge, and you watch the replay and his legs are going 90 to the dozen, like he's really, really quick. And I think I got the opportunity to watch this because I'd watched Sportscene. And when you see Venti pointing for the ball, so there's lots of like really key moments that happen there. So the turn, the beating of the challenge, the point for Venti, the pass, the dummy, like the ball from Venti, the dummy for Campbell, and then the finish. Like at that point, it almost feels kind of immaterial what sort of contact Tavares gets on it, because it just felt like he's in such a great opportunity that he's created largely by himself. It's just going to result in a goal. And I think after watching his interview during the week, where he was talking about like some of the difficulties that he's had, where he's kind of been like cast adrift and he's been working on some extra stuff, and he's talking about the importance of his teammates and saying like kind of keep smiling, keep working. The goal that he scored against, who was it? Who was it he scored against? Ross County. It's not just a fluke. It's not just like the sort of the cast adrift player. He's come in and he's got a goal. Like you can see that the boy definitely has quality, and you're getting to see it now because and I think he mentioned as well, which was a key thing that Bogdan mentioned in an interview with him, trust from a manager. I think Tavares mentioned it in his interview where he said like one of the first things that happened was he said like all the stuff that happened before, like you've got a clean slate with me, you need to kind of put that behind you, and I think we're starting to see the evidence of that.
That's the same in any job, isn't it? Having a manager having your back. But can I ask you a question, John? Is 9 to the dozen faster than 10 to the dozen?
It's a wee bit slower. I think Boyle's probably 10 to the dozen.
Cool.
If you watch the BBC highlights, and John, I totally know what you mean about his legs because I clocked it as well. Watch it and in your head play the Sonic the Hedgehog music as you watch that highlight. It absolutely enhances the experience.
Someone out there has the ability. Please put little golden rings in front of Tavares when he's making that
Tavares was getting all the praise on Sports Sound at that point. I think like if you had heard Chick Young said he was like running riot and having a great game. He definitely has like we'll not over put him because I think he's doing well. But he's still got a way to go. But it is really good to see it, especially John. Like if you'd listened to the interview that you referenced there through the week with Hibs TV, kind of gives you an insight into the sort of the, I think if you would call it a journey or an ordeal that he's been on or been through.
If we're over egging it, let's call it an odyssey.
An odyssey, the Tavares odyssey. But he sort of is in the team on merit. It's definitely like a sympathy vote. You know, like you said, Colin. It's no.
Yeah.
Yep. It's no sympathy vote. He's there because he deserves to be. We see it out to half time, going at 1-0. We get the second goal in the second half, corner and cracking header for Miller. Colin.
Aye, that's it. That's exactly what it was. Good ball in the cracking header. He got up really high. But it's good to get a goal for a corner. It doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, he was really high, eh? Like,
aye. I'm not being funny. Like he was. He looked like way up compared to like his leap.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they never jumped or if he's just got like an extraordinary sort of leap because he seemed like fucking miles. Nobody was close to him.
I think watching the replay, it was almost he wasn't kind of jumping for a standing start, but he hadn't had much of an opportunity to run and then jump, to give himself a bit of momentum. So I think we've got to give him credit for the athleticism there to get up and get his head in it.
It was that high up, and I'm not joking here. Like I thought it was going to be a foul against him. Like I was like, he must be climbing. It was like one of these ones. Like I could actually going to get pulled back, and then like you see the replay, and he's no fouled the boy or anything. He's just kind of an unnaturally high leap. I mean, So
enjoy it because we'll not get another goal till about for a corner.
Well, we're saying that we've not scored a goal for a corner, and my gut feeling says you're right because I can't remember any, but we are scoring from crosses. Like Miller's been on the end of another Joe Newell cross that resulted in a goal for a header, albeit he didn't have to jump for that one.
There was a manager.
That's something that we're working on.
I can't remember which team. A manager in England doing a press conference or a Q&A with fans or something through the week talking about short corners, and he was making the point. He says, like, you'll look at it. It's like traditionally you get a cross and you'll get a chance, or they'll go straight to the keeper or out of play, or it'll get cleared. So we take the short corner, and if you assume that passage of play continues until there's either the ball goes out of play or there's a turnover, their short corners resulted in whatever percentage chances more than a traditional corner. He says, so you all moan about the short corners, but they're miles more effective than just lumping the ball into the box. And he set it out with all the stats and everything. I thought it was quite interesting because I think the tendency is to have a good old moan when it's like a short corner. You can go, fuck, I'll know again.
As we've been through it. We've been through it here. I can't remember who was it Maloney maybe that used to have the short corner.
Well, I say Lennon tried to get a few short corners going, like a few short corner routines. I can't remember it too much after that, but like I do remember the shouts. It's almost
in the box.
It's just fucking like so you can almost imagine like the guys like just fucking stop it, like get it in the box.
Yeah.
Anyway,
just get it in the middle.
In the mixer.
Aye, in the mixer. Miller was to kind of go from hero to villain, if you like. So he picked up 2 bookings. John, first booking, fair or not? What did you think?
I think it was probably fair because I think the ball when it reaches him, he doesn't control it, and he's not anywhere near the ball. He's not in control of the ball, and then he just kind of cleans the boy out. It's not. I don't think it's wild. I don't think it's reckless, but he definitely fouls the boy. I think the argument there is that it's a justifiable yellow. Did
you think? Well, what would you call? What was your
so at
thoughts?
The time, I thought the same, right? And I thought the exact same. The only thing that was niggling me was he's not booked anybody else, like for bookable fouls, but he's booked him. But if you read the rules, like if you were to get educated on it to Monday morning or whatever, that would probably be classed as a yellow card in the letter of the law. But the problem is he didn't apply the letter of the law.
There was a challenge on Martin Boyle on the right hand side where I don't know if it was Ricky Lammy, and this is, I want to say it was Ricky Lammy, but I'm not 100% sure. But
So you say anyway.
whoever it was that cleaned out Martin Boyle on the touchline, it was almost like it felt a wee bit old fashioned. Well, I'm just going to give you a dunk on the touchline because I can,
Well,
because the ball's going to go to play.
It was the same with the boy chasing in Marshall.
Marshall, yeah.
The goalie, when they took ages, Marshall, but that doesn't mean that the boy can still come and catch him on the ankle. Can't remember, was that back at Yoko as well?
Yeah, because he got
anyway.
he got injured, or he got
He had himself doing it.
Mm.
And you think, oh, that's a yellow card,
Mhm.
but they never booked him there. So I think it is a yellow card in the rules, but I don't think it's a yellow card in that game because he's not doing it everywhere else.
Yeah.
I thought it was a really harsh yellow. I thought, see, if you look at Miller's movement in it, so you're right, Johnny loses control of the ball, but then everything he does for there is pulling out. He plants his feet, so he's not going feet into the boy. The boy kind of makes contact with Miller's almost static when the contact happens. He stops, but he's got nobody else that he can go. Miller, like he can't. There's no way for him to get out of the road of the boy. There is contact, but I don't think it's Miller fouling the boy. I get like it's one of these ones that looks worse than it is, but if you actually watch it back and you go, I think he's dead unlucky to get booked for it. I could probably see where he's coming from in that, like maybe 9 times out of 10 that's a booking, but I just don't think there's much in it.
The boy made it look good, and he done that later as well in the second one. It was the same boy. I think that was obviously scored the goal, but I think his main contribution to the match was probably winning fouls and getting bookings, because he was rolling about the place, waving yellow cards, all that kind of stuff. That's obviously what he does, but because he's doing his back for rolling about. Like if your back's that same, mate, you're not moving like that.
Aye.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that'll take us on to the second yellow then, Colin. What did you think of that?
That he done it, mate. He was in and out, like he was turning him inside out, and all he done was it was the Kolak test. That was there. It was a wee touch on the back, and he's trying to win a penalty. What he should have done was hang fire for another wee second, and he might have got the penalty. He dived too early.
How would ignore me? I was going to ask the point. You know how they kind of done away with the whole double jeopardy thing? I think, does that apply to goalkeepers where you can't send a goalkeeper off and award a penalty at the same time? But I don't know if that applies to outfield players.
If they didn't go for the ball, I think. Can you know?
But if it's a second yellow, they can still send them off. No. So you'll not get a straight red for it, but you'll not get a. You don't get a set. The ironic thing is, see if it had been in the box, I think Miller wouldn't have got sent off because I think they would have went. It's not that. It's a dive. Do you know what I mean? I think they would have said there's not enough of a foul for it to be a penalty. And
it's enough outside the box.
Aye. So there, because the referee's given the free kick, I think he has to book him because a foul that stops a promising attack is a yellow card. I think.
So he did foul him, but it's like soft as fuck. He's touched him.
He's touched him.
You know.
Aye.
So it's that. Like how there'll be one next week. We'll know it, and we'll go. What was a yellow card last week? How the fuck's it know this week? And that's one of the ones that we'll be talking about next week.
There's maybe an argument to be made there, like that the surface played a part in both of those bookings, because I think in Miller going after the ball or going after the player in both instances, like he slipped first. And I thought it was just something that was limited to Dundee players just because there was a few of them that had slipped, especially when they had, I think late in the game there was a boy that had a bit of a promising attack and then he slipped and he's just lay on the ground expecting a foul, and Hibs have broken relieved a bit of pressure. But I wonder if there was anything particular to do with, I don't know, want to go back to like a Neil Lennon argument of what you need to be wearing longer studs, but that definitely contributed to it. Because I think if Miller doesn't slip, he probably just steps in front of the boy and stops the attack, but he slipped and he's had to try and make up ground, and he's just never getting in front of the boy again. And as Colin says, it's that wee like touch in the back. It's brutal because
he's waiting on that. He's waiting on the touch in the back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, it's the defender falling down for the free kick sort of style.
And as fans, like we look at that and go, why are you ever touching him? Because you know that it's always going to end up in a foul. And if you've got a yellow card, why are you making it? And I wonder, one of the things I was thinking about, like we often, like from an attacking point of view, you're looking for the boy Beck to be looking up and saying, right, who's in space? Like, what kind of pass across am I going to play? Does Miller, like, from a defensive aspect, does the defender ever look across and say, right, what sort of cover have I got? Because then he would know whether he needs to be making that any sort of challenge there at all. Because the boys kind of hitting the byline there. Like, he's not really going
Aye.
anywhere else. He's looking to get a ball into the middle.
On that, Rocky definitely did. Can I just give Rocky a wee mention for his tackle? Fucking lovely, love it. He definitely scanned and went, there is nobody covering here. I'm just cleaning this boy out.
Aye.
And he done it, and I'm not going to hurt him way, but you know if I could go any further, pal. Way. It was brilliant.
It was one of
the
the
Dundee
most-
manager was wanting a red card for that.
Nah,
Aye.
for what? He needs educated in the rules. That's a yellow card.
Never a red card. And
It's no reckless. It's no dangerous. It's just a fuck you. You're not going anywhere further.
It was so subtle as well, because like the boy Beck's been on like a wee bit of a amazing run there. He's got a good head of steam on him, and like Rocky's cleaned them out, but he's not cleaned them out. It's just like a wee lift of the leg or something.
Oh, aye, that's what I mean. It wasn't dangerous or anything. So there's no way you could even go, like the Lundstrom one against us when the referee thought it's a red. And probably is a red because we've seen others since it was a red. That he's just hacked them for the back. Whereas Rocky just took his leg and just sort of lifted it enough to knock him off balance, and put his arms up as if he ever meant it. Like one of them ones, because I'm not clattering through, because I thought it was brilliantly well timed and excellent bit of defending.
Beck should have got a yellow for the waving the fake yellow card.
With both hands, he done it. He switched hands to do it.
Did he?
He done both hands. Yeah.
Friend of the podcast, Leon Rossiter, was on Twitter this morning saying, like, when did that stop? When did we stop booking players for that? You know, because I think it's a really fair point, because it's not something I've seen for ages until I saw it yesterday. Like, maybe I've just been ignorant. It's been happening for a while, but yesterday I'm like, hang on a minute, like. And then also, I actually want to give Lewis Miller a wee bit of credit here, because he's just been sent off. The boy has, you could argue, has won a foul, but then he's had the audacity to start trying to like guide him off the pitch.
It should have fell down.
I'd have, if that was me who'd suffered that injustice, I probably would have fucking leathered the boy.
He should have fell down, and then got him booked or red carded for manhandling him.
Aye. It's frustrating because this is again goes back to referees picking and choosing when they do the I don't know what bookkeeper have to. It's the rules type bookings, and he's just ignored like a yellow card offence. And
was he already booked or anything? The boy, I'm just gonna check.
I'm not sure if Beck had been booked by that point.
It would have been news, you see, because he's a Liverpool player. I've just realised it's him. He did get booked. I don't know when he got booked though.
I think it was booked before that. I think that was.
So that would have been a red card.
It would have been immediately 10 against 10. So you're going 2-0 up, 10 against 10. Fair enough. I think we're under any pressure then. This is a proper fuck the SFA type episode, isn't it? Like kind of getting stuck into the referee for.
No, that's educate us on the rules. Tell us why it's no.
Tell us why it's no. Then we see out the game, so we do concede. Beck gets a goal. Any complaints with the defending for the goal, John?
I don't think so. I think Dundee have created a chance. If I remember rightly, they've kind of played it over to the left. They've had a go. Is Marshall saved it? Has there been a block?
I think it's a block for the defender first.
Was it a block for the defender?
I think it's maybe Hanlon blocks it.
It's felt kindly. Nah, not really. I don't really have too many complaints. Again, like it's one of those maybe subjective things. Like if it had been 2-2, or if Dundee had gone on to win it, like I wonder if I would have pored over the replay more, looking for faults.
Yeah.
But instinctively, I'm thinking the one proper chance that I think they've created, the one proper chance that they've had an opportunity to have a crack at goal. We've got a block on it. Like it seems like we've defended it really well, and then it just so happened. Like I think on another day, Beck has that chance. He has another shot at it, and it goes somewhere else. Like we save it, it goes wide, it goes over the bar.
And on another day, you'd have a defender out there, defender against them.
Well, there's that as well.
We never had a right back. But I agree with that. I don't think, looking at it, there's probably something you could say, oh, he should have done better there. But actually, every goal's there's a reason for every goal, and I don't think there was anything glaringly obviously bad there.
Aye, happy with that. So we see if we missed any major points for the game before we go into the listener talking points.
I just want to mention Will Fish turning himself into a winger and bolting down the right hand side late in the game, almost fashioning a chance for Hibs, because it relieved the pressure for us. Relieved the pressure, create a chance for us on another day. It goes in.
I think if you're calling out players, Marshall as well deserves some credit for his performance yesterday. We've all obviously spoken about Marshall over the course of the season. I think yesterday was a game where he showed where he can be a valuable player for us.
Is he also going on a bit of a run of late where the mistakes that were leading to that reputation that we're talking about have started to become less and less, and we're starting to see more of a steady keeper in him?
I think so. I don't know if it's to do with the change in goalkeeping coach. I mean, there seems to be like a kind of obvious correlation between the two things.
At that age, that would make a difference.
Yeah.
I think he would be coaching himself at that age.
I mean, I quite often kind of make the point correlation doesn't necessarily mean causation, so I'm maybe jumping the gun with that one, but the two do seem to kind of coincide. Right, listener points. Kaiser Soze first one. Why do Dundee cunts add unnecessary H's? For example, Pe, Yuhan. Discuss.
Okay. Yuhan was brutal yesterday.
It was annoying because, Colin, I think you and I were watching the same, or listening to the same commentators. One commentator was saying Yuhan, and I think the other one was saying Johan. It was so annoying. And it's so simple because there's no H in his name.
It's not even a silent H.
It's so obviously Yuan. Like, how is this a problem for people?
Amazing, huh? Jeff Ashton said, having watched his interview on Hibs TV this week, how pleasing was it for Jair to score? A lovely young guy who's been through the mill, stuck at it despite LJ's treatment of him, and clearly loving the fans and club.
He looked happy at full time, didn't he?
Aye.
Matty, you mentioned earlier like you didn't want to like over-egg things, and we started talking about odysseys and what have you. Like, where do you think Tavares' game could improve? What are the bits that he still needs to work on, do you think?
I think it's the consistency, isn't it? I think there's a wee bit of, like, with all our players, a bit of decision making. Like, I think we had a chance in injury time. I want to say Johan. I think Johan had driven forward, gave it to Tavares, and I think he had a pass on to the left, and he could have skied it from like the edge of the box. There's like wee moments like that.
One of their chances came yesterday for Tavares, just getting the ball away.
Just a slack pass.
Yeah.
So there's a consistency thing, and I think like you don't want to get carried away after 4 or 5 games. I think that's like the kind of the key, because we have a tendency to do that one way or another, whether they're good or they're bad. You can either write them off or they'll forever be good, no matter whether they're actually good or not.
Next time he has a bad game, next time he has a bad game, everybody that had written him off will be back out saying, "Fucking still shite." That's what happened.
So you say like
just hiding in it.
What you were saying there, Matty, about like not bigging players up too much after 4 or 5 games. Like, we have elements of the support that write off players after 4 or 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, where's that? Like, where's that balance? Like, how do we objectively talk about a player without lurching from one extreme to the other?
I think I always say language is important, John, right? And I think when you're talking about players' performances, right, like, see, you could take any number, right? So look at Christian Deutsch, for example. Right, Deutsch took ages to kind of get up and running. Everybody was like, "Oh, shite, right, he's fucking couldn't score in the brothel type things." And then he gets a goal and he goes on a run, and the next thing everybody's like, he's the next coming of Christ. And you've got kind of other players that have kind of done similar, where you've not seen them for or do anything, and then all of a sudden they're a player. Joe Newell, another one who's probably one of our most important players. Martin Boyle took seasons to kind of get up to being a player that's in, to the player that he is just now. I think when you talk about a player's performance, you talk about how they're doing in that game, but what we have is folk who go, they're shite, and it's like they're always going to be shite.
Yeah.
And that's what it's on. It's like they're not playing well now is different for saying that player's no good. And I think that's how I would sort of suggest having those kind of conversations. Like, over time, like if a player's going to be good enough at the level you're at. But there's been plenty of players that we've written off. I say we, like the Hibs support, have written off. Haven't made it at Hibs, but have gone on to have good careers. They've been good elsewhere. It's just no work for them for whatever reason. So I think it's just like to keep that in mind. Is the words are important. The way that you speak about people is important, and remember there's a person there, and then he's just fucking slaughter folk because they've not played well for a handful of games. It doesn't mean they're always going to be bad. That would be my answer to that one.
I am inspired right now, Matty. I love that.
Good.
But see, when we talk about the treatment he got for LJ, like you just mentioned there, is that just like not playing him? Because maybe he just didn't rate him, eh? Like, you know, it's like, was he treated badly? Still getting his wages, you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like
I think it goes beyond that, Colin. Right, so I think, and so this is my observation, right, and I kind of tie into, like, bring up Bojang as well, right? So the complaints that Bojang had when he left, right? Again, both players weren't in the manager's plans, and I think Lee Johnson, and I could be barking up the wrong tree here, but I think he's old school in that if you didn't want them in the team, just treat them like shit until they want to leave. And then you get them. It's like it's easy to get them out of the club. It's like, oh well, you're not playing. But Tavares he wasn't even getting a game for the development team. Do you know what I mean? It's not like he was. Well, we didn't fancy him. It's like we didn't fancy him. He's not getting to train with the first team. He's not getting to play with the development team. He's not getting to go in the pre-season camp and
just freezing him out.
And it's a young laddie, like it's come over for Portugal. Really, like a young man. Regardless of whether he was in his plans or no, you still have to be putting your arm around that player and try to make life as good as you can for them.
Yeah.
And Johnson didn't do that. He did the opposite. He made it shite for him. So I think there's a difference.
Aye, no, fair enough.
David Loudon said, will Miller's second yellow card be rescinded because never in your life is that a foul? Defended like fucking rode our luck at times, but for a change went unpunished, like we seem to be getting a lot recently. So it'll not be rescinded because it's a second yellow. Can I appeal to him? Brunswick Bill, I like this point, John. I'll get your thoughts on this first, right? Brunswick Bill said, I wonder whether, like what happened with Porteous, we are seeing the beginnings of the targeting of Miller. Opposition players looking to dive and gesticulating for a card, plus card-happy refs. Won't take much to duplicate Porteous' demonisation. The big guy's a perfect target.
That is an interesting point.
Why is it a perfect target?
Well, I think I'm thinking back to previous.
And he gives it.
Oh, okay.
I'm thinking back to previous episodes and previous games that we've discussed some of the treatment for the opposition that Miller's come in for, and he seems to be a target. And I think we made the point that, or I'm sure I made the point that it seemed a bit odd that Miller would become the target because he doesn't seem to be, with the exception of that one game where I think that he sort of like put his head into the other player's head. He doesn't strike me as a bit of a loose cannon. He doesn't strike me as a hot head on the pitch.
I agree with that, but you know what I think he is? I think he must be giving it, like we've seen it with the 1-0 to the Kilmarnock player. I think he's maybe a bit of a sledger. Aye. Yeah. So that's why you make yourself a target there, don't you? Because if you're getting it out, you'll be taking it fucking back.
Yeah. Which
is fine, like I didn't mind that. That's you just need to be able to take it back, don't you? You just need to be aware of it. So,
I don't know if you. So I mean, maybe that could be the reason that he gets a bit of physical treatment. That he's maybe engaging in a bit of sledging.
I think because they're thinking I'll get him because I got a chance. I said it was mouthing off a wee minute ago about fat my life or whatever it is he's saying. You know what I mean?
Aye. So is that Miller is that Miller attempting to get the opposition into maybe going into hard limit to try and get a booking? Like, do you think a referee's going to be wise to that and go, well, he was mouthing off, so he's taking a say so I get fair play?
I don't know. It's a bit we're guessing that's what he's doing. Do you know? But I think if you look at Miller and the type of player that he is, there's an assumption that he's going to be like physical or overly physical. I think the referees definitely didn't give him the same protection that they afford other players. There's times when Miller's been booted up and down, and the referees just like fucking we've played on.
Laddie Beck yesterday got 2 yellow cards against them for minimal things.
I hope it doesn't turn into like the sort of the Porteous thing because I think he really deserves it. Not necessarily the Porteous did either, but that's another discussion, right? So McCann C said, as said in commentary, our game management needs some work. Great result, and I'm no moaning. Just a bit naive again with 10 on the park. Did you have a problem with game management yesterday, Colin?
Not really. No, I thought it was all right. We won. Like at times we were trying to dribble the ball into the corner. But I think it's almost like just get it away, like rather than like we lost a goal against St Mirren through there, didn't we? Be similar sort of actions, and we've done that a couple of times. And I thought, just put it in the corner, like somebody make the run and pass to them in the corner rather than you try to dribble there yourself.
Aye.
But it didn't put us under any pressure yesterday. So, and I think the red card put us under more pressure than anything else. And would you argue that's game management? But then we've kind of said, we thought, is it really two full yellows? Like you're into territory going, it's maybe a card and a half he should have got, like rather than over the two, both are 3/4 of a yellow sort of thing. So I don't think the game management. I think that was all right. What was the actual comment that the game management needs to be better?
Yeah, it needs some work.
Aye. Well, I don't know. I think we won, so maybe we wouldn't have let a goal in. That would have been because it was comfy 2-0, and it only got under pressure because we let that goal in. But we let a goal in because we were a man down. So.
Aye, but I suppose the getting some work is probably the thing that you said there about like you've picked something that you could work on. So, right, Mike Hibs Chucker, taking a break from obviously murder and prostitutes, said, "How was there not a VAR check on the foul on Miller? That was more a yellow than Miller's second. Great 3 points though." Aye, totally agree.
Aye, it was more a foul than Miller's second. It's such a weird thing. Like, it maybe comes back to what we said about the rules, about like putting your hands on player like constitutes a foul. But it seems like such an anti-foul. Like it doesn't really feel something that merits a foul. Like you put your hands on someone's hips, so that means it's a penalty. That just doesn't ring true to me. Whereas the physical contact and taking Miller off his feet in the box seems an obvious penalty. It's bizarre.
It is bizarre. Vince Robinson said, "We need to extend Ian Gordon's recruitment contract. Goals from 2 of his signings."
That's taking inspiration for last week.
Aye. Yeah. And by the way, I think it's a fair point. We've already sort of made it, so we'll no labour the point, but definitely that transfer window was better in hindsight than it was last season. Anyway, right. Jamie Robertson said, "Has there been a bigger turnaround from a Hibs player than Tavares turnaround? Shame on B. Johnson for isolating him for a season. My biggest take from the game is how hard-working and together the team are."
I think so. When we had that wee conversation before, where you gave your wee inspirational speech, Matty, with regards to, so you mentioned Doidge and Newell, and I think there's quality in both Doidge and Newell. It wasn't immediately apparent. I think in subsequent interviews that have been held with both players, I think they've said that they had pre-season in Scotland starts much earlier, so they were just off the back of holiday, weren't that sharp, and they're straight into competitive football. So like Joe Newell, for instance, at Stirling Albion, I think was at the Down the Slope interview, he talked about their right back being the best player that he'd ever come up against. I think it was maybe slightly tongue-in-cheek. Folk were writing him off then. I saw him down at Carlisle shortly afterwards, or shortly before, I forget the timeline. And he did look like he was blowing at his arse after the first 20 minutes. But as quick as we are as a support sometimes to write off players, there are players within it who have that opportunity and have the talent to go on and become the goal-scoring players that Christian Doidge are, the player of the year that Joe Newell became. And I think that's why I'll always argue for time for players to see that, to see their talents come to the fore, and to see their talent and the reason that have signed them in the first place come to the fore.
On the hard working and togetherness things, I was down at the training centre on Friday for a wee work thing, and it was, so I've been to the training centre like a decent number of times over the years, and on Friday was the most I've ever seen the place buzzing. Like, it was busy, it was full of folk, the atmosphere, it was only in for a short period of time, but it felt like a really positive, vibrant place to work. Like, just a really good energy about it. And I think when you see even the aftermath of the game yesterday, we talk about how hardworking and together the team are, right? Jamie's point. Don't know if you saw Boyle's tweet to Tavares, like you dropped it, it's like you dropped your crown kind of thing, and Tavares celebrating with the crowd at the end. The team properly dug in and played for each other. I think there's really encouraging signs for that sort of thing. It looks like a team that's playing for each other,
enjoying it again.
Aye.
Yeah.
Objectively, though, Have you been down to the training centre? You mentioned being down a couple of times or a few times over the years. Have you ever been down to the training centre when things have been a bit shit, when Hibs or managers or players have been under a bit of pressure?
We went down. So Heckenbottom was in charge. We did a tour. So it was evening, so you wouldn't expect players to be there at that point. But we did a tour with Hibs.net. Heckenbottom was under. What I remember about it is Heckenbottom was under a ton of pressure. Like we were in the middle of the shite run, well, probably towards the end of the shite run, and he'd stayed back to talk to folk, like to kind of do like a wee Q&A with the folk that were there. I suppose it's hard to tell because you're not comparing like for like. I've been down when it's been busy. I used to go down to watch the under-19s, like going back years, and that it just felt like folk were there training and then go away. Like this felt like the folk were there after they needed to be.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it looked like. They were there. They could have gone away earlier, but they were there kind of milling about. It just was like a good atmosphere, John. I don't know.
How do you think the people responsible for that, so let's say it's Nick Montgomery and his coaching staff, how do you create that atmosphere within the training centre, within the football club?
It's a good question. There's loads of things that you'd.
Because I think one of the things that we're talking about with regards to Tavares is, and you mentioned it yourself, like treatment and the freezing out, and you're basically you've got a good contrast there between Lee Johnson and Nick Montgomery.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do you go about changing the atmosphere, like with, like even like the way that the players are feeling about coming into the training centre? Because I think, I don't know.
So it'll be more fun in that. It'll be more fun, right? But also, like what we heard was last year Johnson didn't even have. It was the first team in, and so you didn't even have like the development team in at the same time. They were in the afternoon. The women were at Meadowbank, and I know that the women are part of the squad, but that they now all get used to the facilities. It's more open. It's more, like everybody's mixing a bit more and all that kind of stuff. So it's just like
the women's manager was there on Friday.
Aye,
just to make that point. Yeah.
It seems so simple because it sounds like
up a bit. It's just basic stuff, really. Yeah. Well, that is. I'm sure there's more to it than that, but
I think I couldn't say that Lee Johnson definitely talked about it, but it felt like there was a lot of things that he said but never actually did. The actions never backed up what he was saying. Whereas I think through what you're describing with what's going on at the club just now, like we even be having like the women's team manager in at the training centre, that seems to be like it reflects that togetherness and inclusiveness that I think Montgomery's talked about previously.
Right, next question. Neil Renton said, what other players are you looking to see kick on under Montgomery, like Jair?
I'm hoping in next month we're going to get like the likes of Megwa and that back, and Marie Aiken and that. I like to look at them, and I've seen them in the few times I've seen them in the development and 19s teams. So I'd quite like to see how they get on, because they were highly rated, and Johnson just didn't really give them a chance. The McIntyres as well, the O'Connor, like there's a handful of them out there that could. We had about 3 or 4 young laddies on the bench yesterday, and I would expect that these ones that are out on loan are actually higher up the pecking order than the ones that were on the bench. Other than maybe Molotnikov, who was in around that team already, but Whitaker and Landers and that, I would expect him maybe to drop back down into to go out on loan maybe while Megwa and that come in, because we now need a right back, don't we? He's suspended, so he's not going to play because he's got to miss the boat. But you know what I mean? We've not got a backup in that position.
You mentioned Molotnikov there. I've heard Chick Young's pre-match attempt at Sam Molotnikov.
How did he say it?
It was like Molotov and Nikov and
Molotov
Nick,
cocktail,
like that kind of. I was like, fuck.
He's how many years has he been in the media, like talking about footballers' names? Like again, Yuan Molotnikov. Like it's really, it sounds like it reads. Why are you changing it?
Belgium Lasker said, John, what about you? So, sorry, kind of jumping ahead of Neil's question. Who would you like to see shine under Monty?
Melkerson. Melkerson feels like a player who, if we let go, and I've said this before, and I think I'm basing it largely on that one appearance at Motherwell, where he scored twice. I think there's a player there that we could miss out on if, like, without bringing him back, without giving him another opportunity, without giving him that fresh slate and clean start that other players have enjoyed. Melkerson
McCurdy's
could
the other
be
one,
a big player.
no doubt, because he got written off as well, didn't he?
McCurdy. Aye.
I think the only reason I'm not shouting for McCurdy over Melkerson is that I can see Melkerson fitting into the Hibs side the way that Montgomery's trying to have Hibs play, and I'm not sure where I see McCurdy playing. That's not a slight against him. Like, again, he's maybe that player that could, his career might not be at Hibs, it might be somewhere else.
I feel those are Melkerson and McCurdy, the two that I would pluck out, but then I hadn't really considered the players out on loan. Kenner's the other one as well that I wouldn't mind seeing getting a go in the team. Fraser Maltman said Beck flashing an imaginary card and not being booked himself. Yep, we covered that, spot on. Robert Cherry said great result, try making it a bit easier on this old guy's heart the next time. More than the Hibs, definitely put more grey hairs on the head yesterday, didn't it? Paul said Yuan is either not listening to his coaches or he's not being coached properly. His decision making at almost every time he's in possession is the polar opposite to what he should do. This is a constant every week. It has to be addressed or his potential will be lost. Yuan's decision making fair?
I think it's fair, but it's harsh as well, because I think his decision making is the thing that he can improve, and that's what will make him a better player and somebody that we'll be able to sell for a lot of money. But I don't think it's every time either.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's very stressed to make the point there, rather than that isn't every time. Well, he wouldn't be getting a game, and he wouldn't be like most goal involvements or whatever the starters they use when they do assists plus goals. You know what I mean? He's up in the top of the list there. So it's not every time.
Tom Wallace said, "Isn't it about time Chick Young retired?" DJ 1875. I thought he did as well. He was like, I'm sure they made a fuss about it.
My dad still wants about him, because he'll say that fucking Chick Young's still on the radio, and I always say, fucking Alan Preston, Willie Miller, Pat Bonner, and then I think, Chick Young's retired, Dad. And he's like, he's fucking on the day. I'm like, I hardly listen to it anymore, So.
They had a Doctor Who 60th anniversary on the TV last night. Maybe they brought Chick Young back as part of that.
Maybe he's retired for the written side of it, and he just does the radio. DJ 1875 said, are we picking up points despite refs / VAR? Aye. John, what do you think?
It does sometimes feel like you're picking up points in spite of those things. That it's almost like their best efforts to prevent us from getting points, but somehow managing to overcome that. And I think I felt that way with regards to other games in the past. Like, it almost feels like particularly when you're playing Rangers, that your goal can't have any infringements. Like, there can't be any sort of hint of offside. There can never be any hint of a foul, because if there is, it'll be given against you.
Aye. Richard Howe says, we're getting there, but we need to have our front players more involved in games. Vente is working his socks off and doing a lot of good stuff, but the service to him is non-existent. Jair looking a lovely footballer now. Give him the ball.
It's really... When you go by?
No, I was going to say the Vente one's interesting. Obviously, had that really important part to play in the first goal. And I'm not sure if it was Vente that won the corner for the second one as well. I can't remember.
I think you may be right. It was.
I just think there's sometimes balls going across the box and he's not there because he's away somewhere else doing working hard elsewhere. There was at times in the first half yesterday he was back like on Levitt's fucking toes, and you're like, get fucking out of there. But maybe that's what they're asking him to do. And I think back to, I think it was Joe Newell that said it on the interview done with Down the Slope. It was players, the fans don't sometimes know what the manager's asked them to do. And like, I'm looking at it going, what the fuck's he doing back there? But maybe that's where they want him. But then it's frustrating when a ball wasn't across the box and the striker's not there because he's fucking.
I think the criticism at the moment by the way, is it Vente or is it Venta? Because I've heard different pronunciations and I want to get something consistent amongst us.
Vente, I'm sure it was on maybe I think in Lafondre, where it was clarified. I don't know, John, so I'll go with Vente, but
I'm going with Vente because Vente's plenty.
Corrected if I'm getting it wrong.
I think the thing with Vente at the moment, so he had that real streak at the start where I think Hibs made a thing of he'd scored with every opportunity that'd come his way. Yeah. But I think perhaps at that point you weren't getting as much productivity from the players around him. Whereas now you're starting, like, where he's dropping deep or he's going wide, and like the ball that he played for Tavares yesterday, like he might not be scoring them, but he's contributing to the goals. And I think the problem would obviously arise when you're getting no productivity across the team, because then he's going to become the, well, why are you not scoring goals? Why are you playing deep when you should be in the box and
That's
scoring?
right. Yeah.
I think that scoring with every chance that he's got thing masked the fact that he was only getting a handful of chances. It was like five shots, 5 goals, and you're going, but that's over 5 games, I think, or 4 games, whatever it was. So you need to get a striker more than 1 chance a game for him to get goals.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's unrealistic to expect that to stay up, and that probably should have triggered a wee alarm bell to say something's not quite right there. Like last couple, we'll just try to rattle through these because we're over our normal time. Colin McGuinness said it's getting better. Our performances are building momentum, and there seems to be a clear purpose, which is a simple thing, but as we know, it's easier said than done. Haley said Miller gets sent off. Montgomery rightly takes off a striker to add in more defence. A boy wants his head. Is there any pleasing some Hibs fans? They're never going to please.
That's funny, yeah.
Everybody.
It's not the Hibs way.
Aye.
I know.
Sean said, were you just waiting for your phone to go saying 2-2 like me? Yep.
Just to touch on that last question about bringing a defender on, how much do you think that contributed to Hibs seeing out the game? Do you think that was the right decision for
I think
Montgomery?
you had to do it. I mean, we couldn't have gone to, I don't think we could have gone to 3 at the back with the players that we had. I mean, I suppose you could have went Hanlon, Fish and Bashir as 3 centre halves, and then I think who you tuck it in on the right hand side, play Boyle as a wing back and a beat on the other side. I just sacrifice the forward. I mean, you could have done that, but I think if you try to keep the system as well as you can, you take a striker off and you keep your 4 at the back. I think that's
What do you think about taking off? So before that, just before the second goal, we took off Levitt, who had a good game yesterday, and then brought Jago on, and obviously there's complaints. I think they're right that when you bring Jago on, we do naturally sit deeper right away.
Mm-hmm.
But then we got the second goal, which then like it kind of maybe nullified that. But it does feel early to be taking off Levitt. It was only 50 odd, 60 minutes, if that. What do you think about that? Why do you think he does that? Do you think Levitt's really burst after 55 minutes, and that's why he's doing it?
I don't know. I think he just likes to. I think it's like about player management. Then it's like these are both important players to me. I'm going to play you both like that kind of thing. I don't know. Because I don't think with like our quality drops that much when you take Levitt off and put Jago on. I think like either of them are. You could make a case for them playing in the team, but also don't know what Dundee did at that time. So whether it was a reaction to something that Dundee have changed, Colin,
But we do it every week.
Well, yeah, that's true.
So that you could show maybe Dundee's changed something, but then every team must change something every week because he always takes off and brings Jago. Well, if Levitt starts, he takes him off after an hour and brings Jago on, and we naturally are deeper because just the way they two play is different.
It's a good point. Well, watch out for it. I hadn't really considered it until you. I would keep Levitt on though. He's like it's one of my favourite players in the team. I just like the way that he plays football. I'd quite happily pay money to watch players like Dylan Levitt. Joanne said, "Can we commend Jair for his perseverance? What a turnaround for him." Motun Hibbe said, "Marshall won us the 3 points today." And finally, Callum M said, "Fantastic to see the likes of Jair and Miller flourishing under Monty, especially when the fans were on their backs so much. Long may the development of the young talent continue." Correct. Right, we are out of time. If you're a subscriber, you'll have extra time to look forward to on Wednesday. We've not quite decided on the topic yet, but it will be fucking good. If you're not a subscriber already, why not? It's only a couple of quid. You can now do it on Patreon as well. You'll find us there if you like to get your podcast through Spotify. It means you can get your subscriber episodes through that automatically as well. Or you can go to our long-term home, which is Hubwave, and you'll get a link to that on our Twitter bio. Thanks for all your talking points.
Can I just chip in? Yeah. Aberdeen tickets. We've got Aberdeen tickets to give away, haven't we?
We've got 2 tickets to give away, and you can win them by retweeting the tweet promoting this episode, or you can go back to last week's one and retweet that because you can enter that way as well. So you can double your chances. We'll give you 2 entries if you retweet both. Right.
Did we also have that same offer on the Bogdan interview? I think when we announced the launch of the partnership with Leith Spirits.
Aye, it's the same. So go. You can retweet that one, and you'll get an entry. You can retweet this one, and you'll get an
Plenty
entry.
of opportunities to win tickets to the Aberdeen game, basically.
It. And if you're already a season ticket holder, or you're already got a ticket for the game, you can win it and donate to somebody else if you want to as well.
Yeah, me.
To Colin. Right. Thanks very much for getting your talking points in. We will see you next time.
Well, they trailed me down when I broke free. I drank all the whiskey in Tennessee.